everybody, welcome to Chess Harbor. My name is Raf, and today I want to show you an opening that I've always struggled against in the past. I have been a d4 player for most of my life, and I've always struggled against the Dutch defense. So after d4, pawn to f5, so-called Dutch defense, it's a very provocative opening. Opening these two diagonals towards the king is very dangerous. It's very sharp for black. It's one of black's most aggressive responses. I've always struggled to prove any advantage against this, as it's very easy to make a mistake and get smothered by black. If black manages to play e5, f5, f4, they're gonna rip open your king side and they're going to mate you. It's very hard to prove an advantage against, and the classical way of playing for white is after move c4 to play g3, bishop to g2, and try and play for an e4 break. But black has a different setups in the Dutch, called the Leningrad Dutch. After move c4, they can play g6 with the bishop coming out. They can play a kind of stonewall setup with pawns on d5 and c6. They can play the classical approach by playing the move knight here, and then e6, d6, try and play for the aforementioned e5 and f4. And all of these options require quite a lot of theory knowledge for white, and I've always struggled against them in the past until about 6 months ago. I came across a book, and let me take the book here with me. It's called Beat the Dutch Defense by Jan Boekelman, and it's an excellent book. And allow me to quote a line from the book. It goes, "Who would not want to play a system against an opening that is theoretically sound, promises good attacking chances, and avoids learning reams of opening theory about Leningrad, Stonewall, or classical Dutch opening setups our opponent knows everything about?" And I couldn't agree more. It's an excellent way of describing what we're about to play, and the book is about the Staunton Gambit with the move e4. And of course, black can no longer play their favorite Dutch defense system. Now we are the one forcing a move on black, and even though it is called a gambit, it isn't really a gambit, as in most lines here, white is going to win back their material. But what this opening does is really just opening up queen and bishop to take advantage of these two weak diagonals that black has created by moving their f-pawn. And let's take a look at the theory. It's a very interesting variation. So after the move e4, of course, black can decline the gambit or black can accept the gambit. Let's first look at ways that black can decline the gambit. We're not really going to take a look at the move g6, as g6 just straight up blunders a mate in one, so you're not really going to face that. The move e6 is one of the options. I personally like just taking here, and after black takes back, playing the move bishop to d3. We're attacking the bishop, black defends the bishop, and now we're just going to play a very normal setup here. Black might give a check here, they might have to go back, and now we're playing a very solid setup. We're going to castle. Black is going to develop their pieces, and they're also going to try and castle, but we can still try and take advantage of these two diagonals by playing the move c4 here. And we're kind of getting a stonewall Dutch with these two pawns, but it's in white's favor, as the f file of the e file is no longer half open, it's no longer closed, it's an open file, and white is the first one to occupy it. And by playing the move c4 immediately, we're also going to try and open up this diagonal, and white should have some kind of long-lasting pressure here. The queen can come out here, put some pressure on the queen side. We can put a lot of pressure on the king side. Our knight comes into e5 and has a lot of pressure. It's a strong outpost. You can support it on the e file, and white should be better in these positions. It's an improved stonewall Dutch, let's call it. So it's not ideal to decline the gambit this way. Another try is the move d6. We're looking to take back with the bishop, so I still like taking. Bishop takes, and now bishop to d3. We're just looking to trade off the bishop, so if the bishop trades off immediately, by having the queen on d3, black has some annoyance in developing their bishop, as the move e5, for example, would just lead to some kind of position where black is equal on material, but has an isolated e-pawn and the king can't castle, and we're going to very much make use of this position by harassing both the pawn and black's poor position of the king. So that's no good either. So black has to try some other kind of way to develop, putting the knight on f6, putting the bishop on g6. But after, for example, the move g6, white has the very annoying queen to b5, where you can either try and win a pawn, but even better is the move d5, where black is just really weak, has to move their knight now. And this pawn is up for grabs, but I don't like grabbing it as it gives black activity along the b file. But by playing the move d5 now, look at all these critical weak light squares. And both players lost their light square bishop, but white can still make use of this light square weakness by putting a knight there, and that way black's development is going to be absolutely halted and their position is just going to be horrible. So really, honestly, there is no good way of declining the gambit. Both of these options lead to a nice advantage for white. So the best and most principled reply by black is just taking the gambit and taking the bull by its horns and going on a ride is usually in white's favor, as you are going to know more theory. So we're always going to follow up f takes on e4 by knight to c3. The reason why is we just want to take back our pawn and enjoy this lead in development and the critical weak diagonals of death around black's king. And objectively, this position is equal. The engine calls this all zeros. And although it may be true, and you're gonna get balanced endgame positions if black plays well, I personally always feel like they are a little bit in white's favor. It's definitely going to be easier for you to play. And there's two moves that black has tried here, either knight to f6 or the immediate move d5. d5 is a classical blunder, as queen to h5, check is going to pick up the pawn after g6, queen takes on d5. This pawn is weak, and you're also targeting the c7 pawn. So it's a classical blunder for black. So knight to f6 should really be the only move. And now we're playing bishop to g5. We're pressurizing the knight. The knight is, of course, the only defender of the pawn right now. And here we have 5 moves that we should look at. And we're going to go over them rather quickly. The first move, again, is d5, but it's a classical blunder due to queen h5 check. And we're picking up at least the pawn. So g6, queen takes on d5. And after the queens come off, we're putting way too much pressure here. We're going to look at a sample game here where I took the pawn and my opponent actually didn't trade the queens here. And we're going to look at that game as it is quite interesting, leads to good positions for white. This is one of the move d5 in this position. You're going to see this in about, let me see at the opening database, what is the opening play rate? About 30% of games are going to be in this d5 move. It just looks so natural, but it's just a mistake. Another move that we should look at is the move e6. Very solid. We're looking to defend the knight here, and here you can play a couple of different ways. Knight takes on e4, for example, is very principled, and then bishop to e7, bishop takes. You can't take here because then again you're in trouble on your light squares here. You can't do that. So after bishop takes here, you can play a couple of different ways. A very interesting way of playing is move f4, and we're playing kind of a Stonewall Dutch-ish system ourselves, where you have a very strong grip on this diagonal or on this e5 square, and we're at some point going to put a knight in there. And we have a very good position. If black ever decides to play d5, we can always just take the knight. And we have 2 goals here. Both this square is weak and the e6 pawn is weak. And it's a very nice position to play. So that's a very simple way of solving this method. If black doesn't move their d-pawn, yeah, of course their bishop is going to be weak. They can try and fianchettoing it, but in general that should not really be an issue either, as this diagonal is not going to become any weaker, and at the same time moving their bishop away from the king side is only going to make these light squares weaker. So another move that we should look at is the move g6. It's another try. And here knight takes, bishop takes knight is the most popular move again, as it is in most lines. But I'm not a fan of that. I like the immediate h4. And we're simply looking to play the move h5 and smother black on the king side. And most games continue with the move bishop to g7 or d5 here. Let's look at the move d5. We're just going to play h5. If ever knight takes, then rook takes here, pawn takes, and queen to h5 is just lethal. You know, look at these diagonals. They're just so weak. King to d7 is the only move here that you can play, and yeah, let's just call it over at this point. It's just not good. Even though you're down in exchange, black's king is so weak, you just can't play a position like that. So for example, h5 here, bishop to f5 should be a better try, but now bishop takes knight, e takes, and now you can play a move like g4, and bishop gets pushed around even more. Now h takes because we're enjoying this pin, bishop to queen to d7, g5, this pawn was under pressure, bishop to g4 anyway, and now a nice move, knight takes on d5. If bishop takes here, we're forking king and queen, we're going to win back our material, and we're just 2 pawns up. If a move like something else occurs, let's say, where are we here? Bishop to g4, knight takes here. Yeah, if queen takes here, we're just simply winning the bishop, and we have a lovely position here. These pawns are very strong, and the king is weak. We're still enjoying this pin. Our king is not in any danger here. So I really like this move h5 or h4 rather, really just putting pressure here after bishop here. Again, h5, and yeah, what do you do? Again, you can't really take, as we're going to be taking here with the rook, and we're just going to get a lovely position here. And here queen takes is strong with the bishop coming to c4, and we're winning. Again, there is nothing really that black can do about getting squashed here. Let's look at black's best line. So after move h4, the move d5 is black's best option, and here yeah, as I mentioned, bishop to f5 is black's best option. And after after this position, you're looking to castle queenside as quickly as possible. You have to dodge out, and we're gonna win back our material here. Black has to play it really careful here, because otherwise you're just gonna get mated. Yeah, so takes, g4, and bishop to e6, h takes on g5, and after queen d7, as we looked at, g5, best move for black here is queen to g7. You have to find this, you know, and now queen to h5 is still very, very scary. You have to find all of these impossible moves for black. It's that's something that I really love about this variation, right? It's such a hard position for black to find moves in. So let's look at the final variations here in the theory. So let's go all the way back. So d4, f5, e4, f takes on e4, knight to c3, knight to f6, bishop to g5. We have 2 more moves to look at. You have the move pawn to c6. It's the it's one of the most principled moves that black can play in this position, because we're supporting the move d5. So if you look at this, the trick with queen to h5 check no longer works, because after g6 there is no pawn to take. There's also no check to give. You're just lost now. That's kind of the idea here. So after the move c6, it's just better to just take, and after e takes, you can take back the pawn here. It is, yeah, it's one of the ways to play. But after, for example, knight takes d2, you play the move d5, and here black is just going to be a little bit better, because your knight has to go back, you're losing time. Black has a good share of the center, so after the move c6 here, I like the move queen to e2. And the move queen to e2 is kind of similar to, for example, a black Mardimer gambit, in the sense that we're going to gambit the pawn in this line. It's one of the only lines that we're going to gambit a pawn in. We're going to castle queenside, and we're going to play the move f3 with a nice quick development of our knight. And in this position, the position gets very sharp and very hard for black to play. Quite hard for white to play as well, but we are going to have some kind of initiative that black really has to be careful not to lose against. So that's going to be my recommendation for this position. It's queen to e2. I don't really believe in winning back the pawn here, as yeah, black's going to get a much simpler position to play. But if you don't like playing a pawn down, you can play this position with knight takes, where the bishop takes and knight takes, and knight to d2. But it's extremely passive for white, and it's hard not to become worse. So I like this more active queen to e2. And then the last position I want to look at is after knight to f6, bishop to g5, is the move knight to c6. It's black's last try. We're going to have to play d5 against this, knight to e5, queen to e2 again. We're pressurizing the pawn. And now knight to f7, bishop takes knight, e takes f6, and now knight takes on e4. We're setting up a discovered attack. Black has some kind of check and block. And here, white has a very inventive resource with the move d6. C takes on d6. And now you can't take here because the knight actually covers that. But a very interesting way of playing here for white. You're just going to move your knight after castles, knight to f5, rook e8, and long castles, and bishop to f8, for example, queen to g4. And here the position is about equal as well. We're down a pawn, but it's a double isolated pawn on the file with the rook on it. The pawn has a ton of pressure on it. It's not too hard to win it back, and it's also quite hard to defend your king. You're going to bring the bishop over. The other knights can come over very easily. It's very hard to actually get this knight away from the f5 square, and also your bishops are really bad because of this kind of traffic jam. So a very nice position to play, and should be in favor of white, in my opinion. The engine calls it all zeros, but I believe that white should still hold some kind of advantage. So that are all the theoretical sections on this position. Let's take a look at two very quick sample games here. The first one is one I played last week in the club. Was against an unrated player. So I played the move d4, f5, and e4, and he actually declined the gambit. He played the move d6, so I took. And here, instead of taking back immediately with the bishop, he played knight to f6, which is already a mistake, as you're not really going to win back the pawn now with bishop to d3. And he plays for the activity with knight to c6, c3, h6, looking to just block my bishop from coming here now. Now knight to e2, d5, now castles, e4, knight to e4, so he takes the connection away, but I can now defend with the knight coming over here. And here I was already imagining very nice attacking variations, as after knight takes g3, for example, f takes on g3 could be extremely interesting here, with the rook opening up, queen opening up. This game looks already completely over, and it didn't take a lot of moves anymore. So now he bit the bullet. He played the move e6 to break out his bishop, but it loses to queen h5 check and king e7. Knight takes on e4. He tried queen e8, but queen can just give a check on h4. King to f7, and now I opened up the position with f takes on e6, bishop takes e6, and knight to g5 check. Simple tactic, winning the rook. I took the rook, pawn to d6, queen check, king f8, I took, he took, and yeah, we can stop here. The game took about 10 more moves, but the position, yeah, you can see it's over, you know. This pawn is hanging. That was my next move. But yeah, just simply developing the pieces here should give you a very, very good position that you can win because you're just up a rook. Let's look at the second game here. It was a bit of a better try by black. E4, F5, D4, F5, E4, F takes, knight C3, knight F6, bishop to G5, and now the classical blunder D5. Bishop takes on F6, E takes on F6, and queen check on H5. We should be familiar with this move by now. G6, queen takes on D5, and my opponent, he tried resisting. Taking here is no good because then the knight comes in and you're going to lose either one of these two pawns. So he tried bishop to E7 here, which was an interesting try. You're losing back this pawn, or you're losing that pawn, and it's actually the best move. I didn't play queen takes on E4 here. I played bishop to C4 check, or bishop to C4, setting up some kind of attack more. I thought this was going to be a little bit more sharp. I had the idea that after queen takes, still knight takes, and with too much pressure, this position would still be completely over. So that is in the end what happened. Now he takes the queen, take with the knight. He goes back with the bishop to defend both the pawns actually. But I did win this pawn back, so now he's left with this weak pawn on E4. He can defend with the move F5, but that weakens this diagonal, or rather weakens these dark squares. So I play knight to E2. The idea is just simply knight to G3 or knight to C3. Play C6 to kick away the knight. Knight goes back, bishop to A5. Now castles. Just want to get out of this pin. There is no real threat of doubling because I can just take back with the knight. Now F5, and I try and open up the position with the move F3. So material is level, but his king is kind of weak. You know, his king can't castle. The only way of getting his king out of the center would be by manually castling like this, or maybe going bonk loud with king to E7 and bishop to E6 to trade away some attackers. But opening the position can't be bad here. If I manage to bring my rook to the E file and open up this position with the pawn wall here, yeah, his king is going to get in trouble because all of his pieces are still sleeping on the back rank. So he pushes on, which is a mistake, as now knight to D1. A nice move. The pawn is just lost. Bishop to B6 here. Knight takes on E3 and knight to D7. C3 just consolidating, and now the position should just be winning. Let's take a quick look. Knight to F6 with a rook on the open file. Bishop to D7. My opponent wants to castle long. I play knight to F4. My knights really want to hop in. So long castles, knight to D3. My knight has a nice maneuver here to the E5 outpost. Rook to E1 to E8. Knight H5, knight E5, bishop to C7, knight to F7. Nice winning combination, you know. Yeah, really in this position, he should have put the other rook there. This rook really does nothing on this file, so it was going to be a lost position anyway. But he blunders the exchange now. B5, bishop B3, A5, knight takes on the 8, bishop takes on the 8, A4, and now we're just mopping up. Look at all these squares I can use. It's a very nice position. Rook takes, knight to D5, knight check. Let's go quickly over the moves. King to C7, and I trade away the attacker or the pieces now as I have a winning endgame. So bishop takes on D5, king takes on D6, bishop back to B3, B takes C3, B takes C3, bishop to G5. So there's still some you know, the bishop pair still strong, but I want to avoid that. So rook to E2, bishop to C8, king F2, bringing in the king, check on E6, king D7, and now a very nice move, D5. And as it was a rapid game, my opponent fell for my tricks, lost the bishop and resigned, but the position was winning anyway. So I hope you guys learned something from this position. So after the move F5, the move E4, an excellent gambit. I hope that you can utilize this theory in some of your games. It's a very interesting gambit. It promises very good attacking chances, and as you can see, even if black doesn't fall for your tricks, you're gonna get nice endgame positions where you're at least gonna be equal, or in my opinion, you're still slightly better with an easier position. Definitely try this one out, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.